Welcome to Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes, a podcast hosted by international award-winning author, two-time TEDx speaker and investor, Natalie Torres-Haddad. She will share the tips and tricks from interviews with self-made entrepreneurs, leaders, and those who've attained financial freedom while learning financial literacy.
Hello. Welcome to Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes, where we interview people and their tips, their tricks, and their tribulations on their road to success. And I'm Natalie Torres-Haddad, aka Financially Savvy Latina, and I'm actually here at a very special conference. One of my dear friends is having her conference, which is Real Estate Investor Goddess. You probably heard her podcast, which is awesome too. If you're a woman in real estate or wanting to, this is definitely a place to be. And today I actually have one of the women that is going to be presenting as well during the conference, and as one of the women that we need to learn from. Because when it comes to money, when it comes to finances, sometimes we feel overwhelmed, and sometimes we're just not taught the right things that we need to know.
Correct.
And it's obviously a trial and error. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Maryjo. And she's a doctor, which is also another incredible. We need more of those women representing higher education, of course. But I wanted to start off with the question I always ask people. Do you remember the first time you got a check or cash that made you think differently about working for a 9-to-5, and you're like, whoa, I can do this and get paid and not have to exchange my time over for the one paycheck that it was?
Well, it was kind of the opposite for me, because what happened is that I was taught get a good education and a good job, which
Likewise.
A lot of us are really taught that, right? That's
Yes.
one of the sacred cows, so to speak. And so I got my undergraduate degree in biology, and I got my certification to teach.
Wow.
Then I went on and I realized that I was offered a couple of jobs, but the pay was so poor. I'm like, well, I'll go on and get my master's degree.
Yes.
So I got my master's degree, and then it was like, and my master's is in entomology, the study of insects.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, now can I get a job? And they're like, no, there's no jobs out there. Now, if I were really smart, I would have asked that question before I got
But they
the
don't
degree.
tell us
they
at all when
tell
you're
us that,
applying
right?
for applications. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Oh, you need a doctorate. So I'm like, okay. So I went on, and 4 years later, I got my doctorate degree, and I said, now can I get a job? And they went, well, there's no jobs out there for people with PhDs in microbiology, okay?
Wow.
So I did 2 years of postdoc. So I did
Okay.
actually a total of 12 years.
Wow.
I could have been a physician, right?
Yes.
So after 12 years in college, I finally got my first job, which I was the first female faculty member at the University of Kentucky in
High
the
five
College
to
of
that.
Agriculture.
We need more women faculty members.
And
yes.
as soon as I got my job, I realized, why was I working for a job? I don't want a job.
Right.
I want to be independent, because I had 2 boys by that time. I want to be able to do things for them that I'm not, even though the job is prestigious, you're still exchanging your hours for dollars, right?
Yes.
You're not really in control.
I should know, my husband's
of
a
your
professor.
time.
I love what he does, but we know there's moments where you're like, why? Yeah.
And it's because you love to give back, but there's other ways
Right.
of giving back. And so after 5 years at the university, I left the university and started a pest control company. Now get this. Hi, Mom and Dad. I'm going to leave my job as a faculty member, and I'm going to become a pest control operator,
Yes,
right?
Yes. Oh, I'm sure they were thrilled.
I know that they probably thought she's lost her
Right.
mind, right? So they never said that, though. Probably when they hung up the phone, they probably rolled their eyes and said, oh my God, she's crazy.
Right.
So anyway, we left, my husband and I left the university. He was there as well. And we started our own pest control company, and it did really, really well. And in fact, the business is still going strong. But in 2001, we divorced, and I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. And I'd been investing in real estate, and realized that real estate was really what I wanted to do. So I went full-time into real estate in 2001. In 2004, I became a real estate mentor and trainer.
That's key, guys, because this is before those that are listening, and most likely millennials, and that's before the crash too. So that's pretty key that she's been through different cycles. So
Exactly,
yes.
exactly. So in fact, in 2004, I was coming out to California. I was doing a lot of training with students out here, and everybody, we would ask, hey, what do you think is going to happen with the real estate cycle? And everybody in 2004 was saying, oh, it can't keep this.
I was told the same thing, and I thought they were wrong. That's not true.
It's like, there's no way it can keep it up. There's no way. It's got to have a correction. And it just kept going up, 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 up. And in 2008, of course, we know what happened, and I like to say the market corrected, but guess what? Prices are back and even above. So everything cycles.
Yes.
And what I realized is you've got to have a really good way of finding motivated sellers, because that's the key to the real estate business, is finding motivated sellers. So I started doing a lot of stuff with tax liens and deeds, and I became, with Rich Dad Education, Robert Kiyosaki's organization.
Love his books. Yes, love his books.
Yes, I became the trainer for tax liens and deeds. And for the past 10 years, I taught. And a year ago, I started my own company called Dr. Tax Lien. And I teach people how, with very small amounts of money, they can invest in tax liens at 24%, 18%, 36%, 12%.
Looks like I have to take another course. There's always something you can learn. Exactly. That's a whole nother field, which is awesome.
Right. It's another strategy. And tax sales only happen in most areas once a year.
Right.
So it's not like it takes a full-time business to be able to do this.
Yeah, and it's perfect for someone that doesn't have a lot of money for down payment or cash. So
and when you have money in a self-directed retirement account, guess what? That's the perfect marriage or union of two concepts, because the one disadvantage of tax liens is the fact that they're not liquid. But you put them inside of a long-term retirement account, and now you can get those phenomenal rates of return, and you're not worried about it taking 2 years for them to redeem. So it's really perfect. And so I teach people what's going to be the best option for them. I also teach all aspects of real estate. I've been mentoring since 2004. All over. I've been in all 50 states. So I really teach people, and we talked about this before we started the recording about the Rule of 72.
Yeah, so why don't you go over that, because some people might be listening like, what is the Rule of 72? Especially for recent grads, you need to hear this.
So the Rule of 72 tells you how much your money will be worth, how fast it will double actually based on your rate of return. So you take your return. Let's say we're going to make a 3% return. Now, some people in these days, the bank's paying 1%. They might go, where can you get 3%,
less than that,
right? So you take 3 into the number 72, and it would tell you it's going to take 24 years to double your money. So if you all put $2,000 in a bank account at 3%, when you're 20 years old, at 44, you'll have $4,000. Okay, that's the way it works. So conversely, if you can make 24% return, you can double your money in 3 years. So you put it in at 20, at 23, now you have 4,000, and you just build on that. So
and you keep doing it over and over.
Yeah, it shows you the importance of really getting that best rate of return you can. Now, here's the other sacred cow of incorrect programming that we've learned. The higher the reward, the higher the risk. That's what we're taught, right? High returns, high risk. But in actuality, there are investments out there, and one of them is tax liens. High returns, very low risk.
And that's what a lot of people should be looking into, especially, right, if you don't have that much wiggle room or that much money to start out with. And I think that's where a lot of people get we get the stigma when you're like, you're a real estate investor, or, and it's like, there's actually ways of making good money at this, and
there's ways of making good money without the tenants, toilets, trash, and termites.
Absolutely.
The 4 T's, because
I like
most people, they say, well, yeah, I know real estate is a great way to make money, but I don't want to be a landlord.
Right.
So there's lots of strategies around not having to be a landlord.
Yes.
But the key is, when you invest in the stock market, for example, you don't have collateral backing up that investment. So when that value of those stocks go down, you're just out there. You've lost your value. But with tax liens, you're getting a high rate of return. But if they don't pay you back, the property owner doesn't pay you back, you can go get ownership of the property.
Smart.
So when we talk about young people, also people who are heading into retirement, what happens is they've worked their whole life for their small little nest egg, which is usually not enough money to retire on.
And that's what we're seeing. A lot of people, not to cut you off, but I think it's sad that we look at, my parents' generation, so many that they can't afford to retire because of that reason.
Well, they bought into the idea of a pension with a company, and companies have done away with pensions.
Yep.
So now they're having to plan on their own, and they haven't done that.
Right.
So now, when we're so worried about losing that small little nest egg that's not really going to get us a secure retirement, and so people are so fearful of going out and making an investment, and they want to make sure it's not risk, but they think that they can't get a high return with low risk. So what do? They put it in the bank. The bank goes out and buys tax liens. Now, if the bank thought that was a risky investment, the banks wouldn't be buying tax liens.
Right.
They're going out and getting 24%
They're making
of their money
off of that.
They're paying you 1% on it. And what I like to teach people is, go put your money where the bank's putting their money.
Yes.
You take it and you get the 24% instead of giving the bank 23% on your money.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So it's about becoming savvy and knowledgeable about investments, because the higher your level of knowledge, the lower your risk in everything you do.
I like you said, the higher level of knowledge. And obviously, both of us come from a background of higher education.
Correct.
And obviously, our parents had probably taught us that, or society was like, we need to.
Yep.
Can you tell us maybe your first maybe fear or mistake that you had the first time you started investing in tax lien? Because I think that's something most people have, that fear of starting in with the first place. I know that was for me, when it's like the first place that I ever bought was such as like, it was such a scary moment. And then after that, I'm like, why was I freaking out about it? Is there something that you saw back then you're like, oh, I wish I could have told myself it was going to be okay?
Well, I actually taught a class in Pima County, Arizona, and Tucson. I love to take groups to the live training classes or live auctions. And when I was a little girl, my grandmother used to take me to farm auctions, and I just loved them. And listening to the auctioneer, and who'll give a quarter
that is
for
the
this,
coolest
right?
thing. Yeah, exactly.
So I had my students in the class in Tucson, Arizona, and I said, we're going to go to a tax sale. I said, there are auction items that are like $20. I said, now normally I would tell you, do your due diligence and then pick and choose what things you're going to buy. But I said, here's the key. I want you to go buy a $20 tax lien. I don't care what it is. Can any of you afford to lose $20?
Right.
You know, what is that, like four
you
Starbucks
buy
or whatever,
yeah, exactly.
right?
You go out and you eat lunch and there goes $20 easily.
Right. So I said, just go buy a $20 tax lien. Then you can take the certificate, put it on a wall in the frame, you know, like a new business that has first dollar earned.
Yes.
Take that first tax lien, put it in a frame, put it on your wall, and put underneath it, I'm a tax lien investor.
Right.
So you get that first one out of the way, and it takes that whole scariness out of it because you've done it. And then you start learning how to do the research, how to do the due diligence, so you're making smart investment decisions. I said, I'm never going to tell you to just go buy a lien without doing the research ahead of time, but get that little one out of the way. I've gotten tax liens for like $1.
And you know, I think that's so important, is that we find not just mentors and teachers like yourselves, because it kind of, unfortunately, we get so much of the I'll sell you this, but they're not giving us the background on how to do that, right?
Exactly.
So what is the saying? Teach a man to fish, or instead, right?
Don't give him fish. If you give a man a fish, he'll have fish to eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he'll have fish for a lifetime.
Exactly. So the fact that you come from that educational background, you really do care about your students.
Absolutely.
I think we need to have that. And I think that's a great advice, because sometimes the fear comes from something so big, but they're not giving us the background on how to do that, right?
Exactly.
So what is the saying? Teach a man to fish, or instead, right?
Don't give him fish. If you give a man a fish, he'll have fish to eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he'll have fish for a lifetime.
Exactly. So the fact that you come from that educational background, you really do care about your students.
Absolutely.
I think we need to have that. And I think that's a great advice, because sometimes the fear comes from something so big, and you're like, and especially in LA, I mean, we know how expensive LA can be, but you're just saying, you go somewhere, $20, not a bad thing. Can you remember the first time that you obviously you got paid well, you started doing well. Can you remember the first thing that you purchased with that big check? Because I know a lot of people say, always save it, but I know people kind of splurge and get something that they've always wanted, because it lets them know that they've earned it and they value that. Yeah. Can you remember something that you purchased that was for yourself? And I know that's hard for moms, because I feel like you're all over the place. Oh, I love it.
I love emeralds. I did a trip to Egypt.
I love it.
My things I usually do is I buy myself trips, experiences, because I love to travel
Me too.
the world.
I love it, yes.
But I do love jewelry, but you can only wear so many rings, right?
Yes.
But I would probably, when I have an opportunity, I will travel.
Yes.
And it really widens or broadens your horizons. It allows you to meet a lot of different cultures, and it really puts things into perspective. I just got back from a mission trip in El Salvador.
Oh, that's where I'm from. Awesome.
Really?
Yes, right.
Okay. We went and helped some people up in the mountain areas that don't really have good connections, and out on the island.
Yeah. There's so many little ones, but yes.
Yeah, so we had an island out there. We went out and we're working with some people out there to try to help them start making soaps and be entrepreneurs to create a little bit of income for themselves. Because on the entire island, there's only 3 people that have W-2 income out of about 150 people.
Imagine, yeah.
So,
probably Sultan. I'm trying to think which island, but I think that's
Khaliza or
there's so many different names. I have to look it up.
So being able to start giving back. So that's one of the things when you have funds, and people say, well, yeah, it's not all about the money. It's not, but it's about what the money can do. So it's not even about what the money can do for you. Of course, you've got to take care of you and your family. But then you can start giving back. You can start helping other people and make an impact in their lives. And that is so rewarding.
And and I think that's something I always love about when I'm doing these interviews is, obviously people are successful in their own right, in their own industry, but the important line that I see so many and have in common, they'll say the same thing. They're like, I just wanted to help my children. I wanted to help my community.
Exactly.
And it
my
really,
church.
Exactly. And it trickles down. And I think that's something that's so important. Just taking 20 minutes out of your day to learn something like this. A lot of you are probably thinking, I need to invest now because. Yeah.
Now here's a guideline though.
Yes.
You ask about how much you spend on yourself. So here's the guideline that when I'm training and teaching, I tell people, you have 1/3 of your money you need to save.
Smart. Ooh, that's more than 10%, which I like that too.
1/3 you save.
Okay.
1/3 you reinvest.
Okay.
And 1/3 you spend on yourself.
I love that. And self-care comes with that. So that's
right.
Really
so
important.
What's so important is making sure you are rewarded, because if you're working hard all the time but you never take time for yourself and you never reward yourself,
right.
then eventually you'll say, well, what is this worth?
Yes.
But you have to reward yourself.
Yes. I love it.
You know, go have a spa day.
Yeah, so you need to enjoy that, because then you don't have that balance, right?
Exactly,
and we need mental health, we need physical health. I think everything that goes with that, right? Could you give us maybe some favorite books or resources that you use? Obviously, she talked about Robert Kiyosaki, which I'm a big fan. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Correct.
The first book I ever read from him, and
The Cash Flow Quadrant.
Cash Flow Quadrant is another great one. And it just changed my outlook and life in college. When I read that, I was like, this is pretty brilliant. So is there any resources that maybe the first book that someone is maybe thinking getting
this is an old book. It's been around for a long time. But it's called The Millionaire Next Door.
I love that book.
And it's kind of boring in some areas, and maybe some of the statistics are a little bit out of date. But I will share with you that when you take a look at your income and your expenses, I love it because most people can relate to this, like a game. My boys were both baseball players. You have to have a good offense. You have to be able to score runs.
True.
But you have to have a good defense, because if you let the other team score more runs than you score, then you're going to lose the game, right?
Sorry, Dodgers, recent World Series. So sad for us. Go ahead.
But so that book talks about having a good offense and a good defense, and I also like it because it talks about pest control operators. You know, it talks about how
funny. I don't remember that.
Doctors and lawyers, many times they have a certain expectation of society that they live in a big house, they drive a nice new car,
Absolutely.
they wear nice clothes, and they're spending more than they're making, or they're at least spending everything they make.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Beverly Hills. Most people think that's like one of the I'm like, those are the places that have the most debt. These people carry so much because of that.
It's that image.
Pressure. Exactly.
So when I was doing pest control in Lexington, Kentucky, we would go into this really nice, beautiful subdivision and to do pest control, and the house was empty of furniture. So the people put every dollar they had into the house, which was a nice facade, but what was their real... They owed everything. They had no furniture. They couldn't afford to buy furniture in their house.
Wow.
So don't look and be envious of what other people are doing. The thing is to live below your means, and I'm not saying to just live in a cardboard box.
Yes.
Obviously, you've got to be
much lower than what you think.
But you have to live below what you're making, and if you save a small amount of money over a long period of time using the rule of 72, you will create wealth. So maybe some of you remember this, maybe some of you don't, but I can remember newspaper articles like this. Librarian dies and leaves $2 million for taking care of cats, right? And you think, how does a librarian have $2 million? Because she never spent any money, she never got married, she never had kids. You wouldn't even know. And she just stockpiled her money, and she lived below her means, and so she had a long time for her money to double and double and double and double and double. So with the rule of 72, it takes just as much time to double from $500,000 to $1 million as it does from 1,000 to 2,000.
And I think that's key, especially not just for, I was going to say for our youth, but actually for the older generation, because I feel like sometimes I see, people that are like trying to keep up with everyone, and it's like, at least when you're younger, you're like, oh, I can live off a couch, it doesn't matter. But I think that's really important. The key that you're saying is being able to understand that in any field you can create something. And that book too, but it was Thomas Stanley, I believe, right? It did the research for The Millionaire Next Door, and so many cool tips on kind of just how you really recycle, reuse, and what you use.
Right. And the other one would be The 4-Hour Work Week.
Oh yes, I just referred to Tim Ferriss. That's such a great book. And granted, we know he doesn't do 4 hours, which is okay because he's a workaholic, which is great. But the great tips that he talks about. The
research in there, and just talking about using virtual assistants. I've used virtual assistants in the Philippines. I mean, that's just phenomenal.
I've gone down to 4 work days because of that book. I'm like, the 4 hours is definitely not there, but it's such a like the fact that I have an extra day during the week is just
work smarter, not harder.
Absolutely, great resources.
Right.
Before we wrap it up, I would like people to before we wrap it up, definitely you can tell us how people can find you and connect with you, but but going back on the line of, obviously you're a mom, you're an educator, you're a mentor, you're a speaker, all these things. Can you probably tell us one thing that you're proud of this past, it could be this past year, it can be personally or professionally, because I think this is something, especially as women, we're at a conference for women, we need to be able to not only brag about people that we know, women that are doing amazing things, and recently we just talked more and more about the wage gap that we're seeing amongst women getting paid less than men. And yesterday was Latina Equity Pay, which getting paid 50 cents on the dollar. It's horrible.
Right.
So maybe something that you're proud of, because I think when you share your accomplishments, other women not only can rejoice with you, but they can be like, oh my God, I can do that too someday. So is there something that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think it's just taking your information that you're gaining and knowledge and actually applying it. So people will say knowledge is power. It's not really knowledge that's power, it's the application that's the key. And I like to say if it were just the knowledge, we'd have a lot of millionaire librarians, right?
Isn't that true?
So they have all the knowledge around them, they live around it every day, but it's really applying that knowledge that's key. And find good mentors and trainers in your life that can take you further down the road. We all need mentors and trainers in all aspects of our lives. And don't try to do it yourself. This is a team, this is teamwork, this is a team.
Right.
This is a team event, and we hire people. Well, actually, we don't hire them. That's what's so great. We don't have a payroll. We have people we work with on a regular basis, title people, real estate agents, small banks, just people that we work with, and we enjoy their company. We create a team environment, and we can move mountains when we work with other people. So creating a team event is a lot more fun than going through life by yourself.
Collaborate, don't compete. So
there you go.
Definitely stay tuned. And how can people find you?
Okay, well, I have a company called Dr. Tax Lien.
Okay.
And it's DR.
Okay.
Tax, like you pay your taxes, right? TAXLIEN, drtaxlien.com.
Okay.
And I also have another one called Real Estate Riches Unlocked.
Oh, awesome.
So I teach basic real estate as well as some advanced strategies, and they can find me there. Or they can get me on my email at maryjo@drtaxlien.com.
Perfect. And we'll put this all in the show notes too. And once again, thank you and congratulations for all you're doing. We need more women like you, and looking forward to this 3-day conference ahead of us. But stay tuned for more tips, Financially Savvy in 20 minutes. And yes, if you have any questions, please let us know, because we want to hear more from you, and obviously maybe hear back and kind of have you back and just give us a whole breakdown on tax liens.
Sounds awesome.
Where to invest, especially you don't have to invest in your own city, believe it or not. So stay tuned for more, and thank you once again for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
To learn more about the podcast, check out financiallysavvyin20minutes.com. For more interviews, make sure you look up Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes on YouTube and Instagram TV. To hire the Trailblazer, as Forbes featured her the financial and mental health advocate for your next workshop or speaking engagement, follow Natalie at Financially Savvy Latina on all social platforms. All it takes is 20 minutes daily to become financially savvy. Music by Nikki and produced by Robert DeLude.